Ali, and a very good afternoon. Excellencies, representatives of development partners, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to extend a very warm welcome and Ali to all distinguished representatives at this event. Dedicated to small island developing states with a focus on a just and equitable energy transition toward a climate resilient future, being hosted here at COP28. I would also like to recognize the organizers, the International Renewable Energy Agency, which facilitates the SIDS Lighthouse Initiative, and the Alliance of Small Island States and the COP28 presidency for providing this collaborative space for SIDS and partners, which underscores the importance of global solidarity and cooperation in tackling the complex issues that lie at the intersection of the energy transition, climate change, and sustainable development. This 90-minute event represents an opportunity for global SIDS to make substantive advancements and decisions on a way forward. And we look forward to the 4th International Conference for SIDS. We must recall that together we are representing a strong faction, and our cumulative voices can and must engender meaningful change for SIDS. We must voice our needs for loss and damage, and we must utilize this session to reflect our progress to date, but also focus on a path ahead as it relates to holistic approaches to decarbonization and sustainable development. As we gather here today, the urgency of our mission looms large. The fate of small island developing states hangs in the balance. Though we contribute the least to global emissions, we bear the brunt of the climate crisis, a crisis that imperils not just us, but the very essence of our planet. Our commitment resounds through these halls, not just as words, but as a call of action, a plea for equitable access to renewable energy, unencumbered by the weight of debt burdening our small islands. Access to renewable energy isn't just a luxury, but a lifeline, one that shouldn't come at the cost of further financial strain. The trajectory projected by the global stocktake veers toward an overshoot of the 1.5 degree mark by 2030. This is just a statistic on a chart. It's a dire warning. For us, small islands, with our low-lying landscapes, it translates to a looming threat of extinction. These aren't just pieces of the land. They are repositories of our cultures, our identities, who we are as a people is intrinsically tied to this land, making the urgency of immediate action all the more critical. IRENA confirms our fears that the current energy transition efforts falls woefully short of the 1.5 degree pathway. IRENA World Transition Outlook for 2023 states, the colossal shortfall in renewable energy targets, coupled with a staggering investment required by 2030 imposes a burden on SIDS. The latest progress report on tackling SDG 7, Energy Progress, reinforces this alarming reality, indicating that the world at large is faltering in achieving its energy sustainable development goals. For SIDS, the transition to just, equitable energy isn't a mere aspiration. It's a fundamental need for survival. We implore the international community to play a pivotal role in amplifying renewable energy and energy efficiency initiatives within our islands. We need immediate, tangible, and concrete actions. The stakes are too high, the time too short to allow anything less. In closing, let us embrace unity, action, and accountability. We are stronger together, and it's our collective responsibility to keep the 1.5-degree target alive. Masulang, shukran, thank you. And if I can, have our first speaker, Mr. Francisco Lacarma from IRENA, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Mr. Lacarma.
Your Excellencies, President Whips, President of Palau, and Chair of this important meeting. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you all today at this pivotal event centered on small island development states. Allow me to express my appreciation for the Alliance of Small Island States and the United Arab Emirates for their partnership with IRENA through the SIDS Lighthouse Initiative. The attendance of Iceland leaders at COP28 resonate the unwavering commitment of SIDS toward global climate action and sustainable development. Their remarkable leadership has been instrumental in guiding the world to this juncture, notably through the adoption of the Loss and Damage Fund. The vulnerabilities of islands to the impact of climate change are undeniable. Within the energy sector, SIDS face challenges stemming from their heavy reliance on imported fossil fuel, thereby facing difficulties in adopting renewable energy sources and implementing energy-efficient measures due to the associated costs. A just and equitable energy transition with its SIDS is imperative for fostering climate resilience. This necessitates timely investment and tailored support to tackle policy, regulatory, financial, and technical obstacles. IRENA launched the SIDS Lighthouse Initiative in 2014 as a comprehensive framework for action, garnering support from 40 SIDS, 39 key development partners, and 7 affiliated partners, currently totaling 86 partners. AOSIS estimate investment of $200 billion required to realize the SIDS NDC's targets. And this underscores the crucial role of international support and private capital. Building authentic and robust partnership will be pivotal in translating climate commitment into tangible actions. As the cost of renewables decrease and innovative solutions emerge, combined with conducive policy framework, the momentum towards sustainable change will continue to grow rapidly. In this context, I invite island states, development partners, including women and youth group, who have not yet joined the SEEDS Lighthouse Initiative to collaborate in transforming the energy landscape of SEEDS. Strengthening SEEDS resilience necessitates fortifying international cooperation and partnership at all levels. SEEDS stands as equal in this partnership, grounded in mutual collaborative trust, accountability, and a shared political will to realize the Paris Agreement, Samoa Pathway, and the Sustainable Development Goals. Furthermore, I would like to reaffirm ARENA support to all SEEDS in their energy transition efforts, starting with our commitment to supporting Antigua and Barbuda in hosting the 4th International Conference of Small Island Developed States, SEEDS, in May 2024. So, Excellency, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I again extend a warm welcome to you and also invite you to take opportunity. Today, the financial platform of ARENA has reached $4 billion of commitment. It's a reasonable amount to make something happening. So I invite you all to present projects to our platform. And so may the outcome of this meeting serve as a catalyst for expediting climate action and sustainable development in small island developed states. Thank you, President.
Thank you very much for your remarks, Director General. As we move into the more structured interventions, I would like to now request the following distinguished speakers to join me on the stage for this intervention. Honorable Senator Dr. Chantel Munro-Knight, Minister in the Prime Minister's Office in Barbados. Honorable Cavidas Romano, Minister of Environment and Solid Waste Management and Climate Change of Mauritius. The Honorable Sean Andre Edward, Minister of Sustainable Development of St. Lucia. And the Honorable, can I just say Cedric Schuster? I don't want to butcher the name, my brother. Minister of Natural Resources and Environment of Samoa. Oh. Thank you. So to make her intervention on behalf of Barbados, I would now have the pleasure to invite Senator Dr. the Honorable Chantel Munro-Knight. Please, you can go up there or you can speak from the chair.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you, Excellencies, Chair. I'm especially pleased to be here to make this presentation. First of all, let me thank ARENA, who's been a partner for Barbados and I believe for the Caribbean. The issue of a just transition, a just energy transition for Barbados and for the entire Caribbean cannot be understated, underestimated. Barbados is a small island developing state. It's 166 square miles with a population of just 260 persons. And that is an important frame for this conversation. Because as we talk about a just energy transition and what is needed and the challenges that face small island developing states like the Caribbean, understanding that specific context is important. I'll speak this morning to the issue particularly of how do we finance that just transition and the challenges that small island developing states like Barbados face in doing so. First, the question specifically of how does a small country of, as I said before, 166 square miles attract the necessary financing in order for us to facilitate a just transition. Barbados has an ambitious NDC of moving to net zero by 2035. But that ambition is also met by the circumstance that because of our size, we're not able to crowd in the necessary financing in order to do so. We're also a country that, again, is classified as a middle-income country. And a middle-income country that is also facing a high debt profile with an aging population. And again, how do we finance that transition? Because we're not able to crowd in the necessary private capital. And that is why, in the context of the Bridgestone Initiative, we're piloting innovative ways in order for the de-risking of the finance capital that is going to be critical. Importantly, we face the challenge that even when we have capital coming in, the quality of the capital that works alongside our indigenous private sector in order to ensure that communities of women, of men, are able also to participate equally, then also becomes a major challenge for us. As my time closes, I also want to indicate that one of the fundamental challenges for us when we talk about the issue of just transition is, yes, that of capital, yes, that of ensuring that our populations come alongside of us as well, but also as well of the need to make sure that the emerging technologies are fit for purpose for our specific circumstance. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for that intervention, and I think your story is our story, and thank you for sharing. And now we'd like to turn it over to the Honorable Cavidas Romano, Minister of Environment, Solid Waste Management, and Climate Change of Mauritius. Thank you.
Chairperson, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It gives me immense pleasure to participate in this important of seats. I wish to thank the ARENA and AOSIS for giving me the opportunity to share the initiatives that Mauritius is taking for a just and equitable energy transition. In the first instance, our government program 2020-2024 is centered on achieving an inclusive, high-income and green Mauritius through investment and clean energy, innovative public infrastructure, and circular economy. In our updated NDC, Mauritius has set an ambitious target of 40% greenhouse gas emission by 2030. We wish to reach these goals by phasing out of coal, increasing to 60% renewable energy in our electricity mix, increasing energy efficiency by 10% on the 2019 figures, promoting smart transport system, namely transit and electric vehicle, and diverting 70% of solid waste from the landfill. 3 distinct roadmaps have been produced to chart the way for the country to implement these objectives, namely the Renewable Energy Roadmap 2030 for the electricity sector, the 10-year electric vehicle integration roadmap, and the roadmap and action for a circular economy. To achieve 60% renewable energy in our electricity mix, we have developed the Renewable Energy Roadmap 2030, and which includes the implementation of a mix of conventional, emerging, and innovative renewable energy technologies such as pure and hybrid solar PV, battery systems, biomass, wind energy. In this context, the government, together with the Central Electricity Board, the sole electricity distributor, have put in place various schemes to boost implementation of renewable energy, including mature solar energy technology. In order to encourage net zero in the manufacturing sector, another scheme known as the Carbon Neutral Industrial Scheme is targeted for the business community. Under these schemes, electricity produced will be integrated into the national grid, thus contributing to the renewable energy share in the grid, as well as encouraging participation of the private sector and public at large. On the social front, from the national budget is being added to fund provided by the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development, the ARENA, and the GCF for implementation of the Home Solar Scheme, targeting 10,000 housing units. Presently, a pre-feasibility study is underway to explore technologies such as floating photovoltaic, ocean thermal energy conversion, offshore wind, tidal wave, hydrogen, and agrovoltaic. And to accommodate for intermittent renewable energy generation and achieve our 60% renewable energy target, efforts are being made towards smart grid, battery energy storage system, advanced metering infrastructure, which consists of smart meters and information management systems. As I am reaching my 3 minutes, which have been allotted to me, let me also wish to say that it is our duty as SIDS country to join our forces for us to be able to make the just transition to a more sustainable and environment situation. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Minister Romano, for those comments.
I will be leaving because I have others.
And he will be leaving us because of other commitments. But thank you for those remarks and sharing all the incredible things that you're doing. I will now call on the Honorable Sean Edward, Minister of Sustainable Development of St. Lucia, to deliver his intervention. And he will also, after his remarks, be leaving us because he has another intervention, another occasion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Distinguished delegates, esteemed guests, and fellow champions of sustainable development. I am pleased to express St. Lucia's unwavering commitment to a just and equitable energy transition towards a climate-resilient future for all. Being a small island developing state, we are acutely aware of the severe consequences of climate change and the pressing need to overhaul our economy and energy systems to alleviate these risks and build a more environmentally friendly future for our citizens. We recognize that the transition to a clean energy future is not just an environmental imperative, it is also an economic and social imperative as well. St. Lucia is blessed with abundant renewable energy resources, including solar, wind, and potential geothermal power. At the same time, the diseconomies of scale and the capacity constraints that we face, like many other SIDS, make it very difficult to attract economically and financially optimal investments. This is exacerbated by the fact that, and on account of insularity, SIDS face very exorbitant delivery costs for renewable energy equipment and components. Mindful that our energy transition should never come at the expense of equity and justice, the government of St. Lucia, in its recently approved National Energy Policy of 2023, embraces a vision of an energy sector where all St. Lucians can participate in the opportunities that emerge from the transition, ensuring that the benefits are for all communities, sectors, and citizens. The energy policy is consistent with St. Lucia's 2020 Nationally Determined Contribution, or NDC, with a target of 7% greenhouse gas emission reduction in the energy sector relative to 2010 by 2030. This target, covering electricity generation and transportation, is a continuation and expansion of efforts listed in the first NDC to meet the targets for 2025 and 2030. The desired transition can be realized for SIDS through strengthening collaborative efforts to build human, institutional, and technical capacities. Additionally, the financing challenge must be overcome through readily available grants, low-cost and concessionary financing packages that are responsive to the unique circumstances of small island developing states. I am pleased to express the gratitude of the government of St. Lucia for the support received from IRENA through the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development, the Castries City Solar Stimulator, strengthening bioenergy data for monitoring Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, and NDC survey implementation, are all the interventions we've received support from IRENA with. These projects are testament to the support needed to achieve a just and equitable energy transition. On the regional front, we look forward to bolstering regional dialogue and collaborative action towards a more harmonized approach within the energy sector to achieve sustainability that includes economically sound solutions that are socially inclusive and environmentally friendly. St. Lucia stands ready to partner with the international community to achieve this shared goal. Together, we can transform our energy system, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and build climate resilience, empowering our communities and pave the way for a brighter, greener future for our planet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Minister Edward. And I understand you have to be excused. Thank you. And with that, can we ask our Honorable Minister from Samoa, Minister Schuster.
Talofa and warm greetings, Excellencies, Ministers, and colleagues. I want to thank IRENA and the COP28 presidency for hosting such a timely event. And I also want to acknowledge the technical support provided by the SIDS Lighthouse Initiative in their efforts to meet the climate and SDG objectives. Our hope is that this event will bring light to our special circumstances, unique challenges, and also put the many opportunities of small island developing states in the energy transition. Excellencies, Ministers, and colleagues, the science is clear. The outcome of the global stocktake is clear. We are currently not on track to the 1.5-degree pathway. Phasing out fossil fuels and phasing in of renewable energy and energy efficiency globally is at the center of the negotiations here in Dubai. At the opening of this COP, SIDS head of state, the UN Secretary General, rang the alarm. If this COP doesn't deliver a pathway that brings us back on the 1.5 trajectory, the survival of SIDS and other highly vulnerable communities is at stake. Not in the 2100, not in 2050, but now. And that is why you have seen our able SIDS delegates engage with partners, many of which are in this room, and work relentlessly to ensure the unequivocal signals come out of this COP. Setting targets for tripling renewable energy capacity and doubling energy efficiency by 2030 would send a strong and needed signal to markets and investors. SIDS have been showing continuous leadership in increasing climate ambition. Most of our members have 100% renewable energy goals for 2030, and our NDCs collectively add to 6.8 megawatts of renewable capacity addition, putting us on the right path to achieve the 10 gigawatts of installed renewable energy capacity by 2030. However, I must also highlight some of the key barriers SIDS are facing in the implementation of their conditional NDCs and energy transition plans. Human and technical capacity, as well as access to finance and low cost, hold us back to scale renewable energy in our territory. SIDS have been very successful at developing innovative demonstration and pilot projects, but are now struggling to scale these to fully transition their energy systems. We urge the international community to work together and creatively to help us overcome these barriers. Greater access to finance, both from private and public sources with grants, low interest and concessional loans is necessary to ensure a quick implementation of our long-term climate goals and alleviate the financial burdens many SIDS face given high debt ratios. To do so, SIDS needs lasting, targeted, and tailored capacity building and technical support to convert opportunities and project ideas into pipelines of bankable projects that can be processed and approved at a faster pace by climate funds and attract private investors. Renewable energy projects development and de-risking capabilities need to be enhanced dramatically in all SIDS region. As we enter the second week of our negotiations here in Dubai, we expect COP28 to deliver an actionable support package to support developing countries accelerate energy transition, including finance, technology, transfer, capacity building, and that such support is easily and expeditiously accessible. A just and equitable energy transition in SIDS cannot be seen solely through the mitigation lens. Bringing clean, affordable, reliable energy to our people also means maximizing development, co-benefits of economic opportunities, job creation, local entrepreneurship, and resilience building for our economies and communities. Energy is the backbone of economies, and therefore transitioning our energy systems takes a whole of economy and society approach. This is why the outcome of COP28 will have to strongly feed into the work undertaken to define our Sustainable Development Global Blueprint and Action Plan to be adopted at the 4th SIDS Conference in Antigua and Barbuda in 2024. Excellencies, ministers, and colleagues, the stakes have never been higher. We can't compromise on ambition, and we invite you all to engage in solidarity with our communities towards a just and equitable transition where no one is left behind. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister Schuster, and I really want to express our gratitude to these distinguished speakers, and I invite them to take their seats in the theater while we call our next set of interventions to come up. And I just want to remind everyone we've got to stick to our 3-minute limit. We're now 5 minutes over time. So with that, I'll ask Mr. Norbert Gorison, the Deputy Special Envoy for International Climate Action of Germany, the Honorable Vince Henderson, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Business and Trade and Energy of Dominica, and the Honorable Seve Panyu, Minister of Finance of Tuvalu. Okay. Come to the stage, yes. Thank you. With that, can we ask, now move forward and ask Mr. Norbert Gorison, Deputy Special Envoy for International Climate Action of Germany, to deliver his intervention. And you can do it from your chair, yes.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really honored to represent Germany here in this event as a partner of the SIDS Lighthouse Initiative. We recognize that SIDS are severely affected by climate change, as has been said, while at the same time contributing little to global greenhouse gas emission. That's why we were very active in order to master the decision about loss and damage and the implementation of the fund and its initial resource mobilization here at the COP, and we are very glad that this already happened. The SIDS, as well as their regional organizations, have an outstanding role in promoting the significance of ambitious climate goals in the international level. We know that challenges remain widespread, but we have significantly increased our climate-related activities in recent years. My boss, State Secretary and Special Envoy for International Climate Action, Jennifer Morgan, has, for example, just traveled to the Pacific and attended the PIF Leaders Summit in Cook Islands 3 weeks ago, and for intensive consultations before COP. And she's continuing to be in bilateral touch with many of you partners from the SIDS Islands here at the COP. Important, big emitters deliver ambition and action, limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. We are not on track to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. We have to show that we have to solve this climate crisis on the multilateral level. Only if global emissions are halved by 2030, a 1.5-degree path can still be kept open. Therefore, COP28 must focus on mitigation now, after we've done the loss and damage part. All major emitters must accelerate climate protection and the global energy transition in order to achieve greenhouse gas neutrality. We need clear targets and promote a global target for the expansion of renewable energies. We propose tripling the capacity and doubling the energy efficiency, as also has been proposed initially by ARENA and the International Energy Agency. We also need, at the same time, to phase out fossil fuel, and this must be decided here in this COP. This needs to go hand in hand with support for developing countries to accelerate their energy transition. CITES and Germany are close partners on many levels, of course with regard to our common agenda for climate action, but also as defenders of the multilateralism. In addition, we cooperate on a long list of bilateral projects in the area of climate financing and adaptation, energy transition, and many more. And we need, in particular, finance is absolute key, so we are very happy to continue to partner with you to push for reform of the financial system, which includes elements like climate disaster risk clauses, debt swaps, innovative sources, and I'm looking forward for what has been announced by Prime Minister Mia Mottley, the Bridgetown Agenda 3.0. Via our International Climate Initiative, we have supported several bilateral, regional and global projects in CITES with a focus on mitigation and adaptation. And we also welcome the great work and technical assistance and project facilitated done by the CITES Lighthouse Initiative, which Germany has supported since 2015 with about 6 million euros over the last several years. We are currently assessing in what way we can continue support for the small island states to shift their energy sectors towards the just renewable energy transition. With a view to the 4th UN CITES conference, Antigua Barbuda, in May 2024, let me say that we look forward to building on our strong relationship and to further strengthening our cooperation with the CITES in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your partnership and your intervention. And I'd like to add one more person who was supposed to join us on stage. Let me invite Mr. Thomas Anker Christensen, Special Envoy for Climate of Denmark, to deliver his intervention. But before that, I hand it over to the next speaker. I want to acknowledge the presence of His Royal Highness Frederik Christian, Crown Prince of Denmark, who we appreciate the time you've taken time to join us here this afternoon and your ongoing support of the CIDS energy transition and efforts to climate action. So I'd now like to invite Mr. Thomas Anker Christensen to intervene.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you for having Denmark in this panel, and also thank you very much for recognizing the presence of His Royal Highness. Mr. President, earlier this year, I had the honor and pleasure to accompany the Danish Crown Princess, Her Royal Highness, on a visit to the Pacific, and we went to see the island of Pele in Vanuatu that had been hit by 2 cyclones in the time span of 24 hours, just a few weeks before we went there. They were still in a state of emergency, and Her Royal Highness met with the villagers in the village most affected, where the school had been severely damaged, and well, it was made a deep impression on us. And in the ruins of the school, Her Royal Highness met with some of the children from that school who had a plea for her and for the minister and our delegation who were accompanying us. They basically asked us, please go to the UN, to the conference, and help us work for 2 things: fossil fuel phase out and the building of resilience. And from 2 12-year-old schoolgirls in Vanuatu, I think that is a message that we all took to heart and took with us in our engagement with this conference, but also in our engagement with you, with the SIDS, because I think that is a request we hear loud and clear from your group in this conference, but also because it is about your future, your livelihoods, and eventually about your existence as sovereign nations and members of the United Nations. And that's why we as Denmark support the Rising Nations Initiative in New York. We support the SIDS conference that will take place in Antigua. Norbert talked about it. We have contributed to the Loss and Damage Fund for the Pacific, but we have also worked in the Transition Committee to get the Loss and Damage Fund of the UN established, and we have made a big pledge to it. And we do think that this conference, as Norbert also said, really needs to deliver that double mitigation package of both phasing out fossil fuels and scaling up renewables and other alternatives. That is really the measure of success, that we leave this conference with that agreement. And I think all of us who are here need to realize that this is the way we have to define success. Now, when it comes to working with the SIDS, we are a long-term supporter of the SIDS Lighthouse, technical assistance. We are also looking at the financing and the investment sides, and also, and maybe because we are home to the largest shipping company in the world, also how we can work with you on the decarbonization of shipping and the production of green fuels. You are small islands, but you are large ocean states, and that is an area where we maybe can make an extra effort as Denmark. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah, I'm looking. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anker, and that's what we need to be turning these Pacific Island states into, is energy producers, so that when those ships come, we can give them energy through renewables. I really appreciate you sharing the Princess's visit. I just want to share that we had the Foreign Minister of Germany visit Palau. And it's those interventions, those opportunities for you to come and actually see the impacts really help scale up activities and ambitions, and we appreciate that and appreciate the partnership. With that, let's hear from Honorable Vice Minister Henderson, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Business, Trade, and Energy of Dominica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And that's for his intervention. Yes.
If you permit me, Mr. Chair, I feel that this matter is so important that I must do it standing.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, pleasant good afternoon, distinguished panelists. First of all, I just wish to start by stating something that should be obvious to all of us, that transitioning to renewable energy in small island developing states can be neither just nor equitable without taking into account and without stating upfront that seeds are the victims of global warming that has resulted in climate change without they being major contributors. So that has to be at the fore of that conversation. And naturally, what will flow from that is why is it that seeds are having such a difficulty in engaging in a transition that is equitable. And equitable meaning that every family, every citizen, every individual, every resident of the seeds should be able to benefit from that transition in a way that will not be solely to reduce carbon emissions, but to ensure that people can be empowered. In the case of Dominica, and before I go further into that, let me just thank our friends from Denmark. Denmark has been a tremendous, an excellent friend, I should say, to the SIDS, and have provided tremendous support over several decades. I worked closely with you during SIDS-DOC initiation and the contribution that you gave to that, and of course the government of Germany. And I'm encouraged by your own ambitions to move into green shipping, to convert some of your shipping into using green fuel. And the beauty of that is that Dominica is at the stage where we are actually at the eve, and perhaps a couple hours away, from signing a geothermal development agreement with Ormat. We will be constructing initially a 10-megawatt plant, and that 10-megawatt plant will give us the opportunity to then upscale to utilize the full potential of our geothermal resource. And our intention is to move towards the production of green hydrogen and ammonia. And that could create the fuel source that you need for shipping. So as we seek to convert shipping into the use of clean, renewable power, Dominica stands ready in our efforts to develop green hydrogen to become a major supplier. We, as SIDS, continue to struggle, and getting to the point where we are going to sign an agreement was, in fact, a tremendous struggle. And this is why I believe that in order to achieve just an equitable transition, we need to focus on some of the obligations, the challenges, the risk that member states must undertake in order to see that transition in any meaningful way. And I speak specifically to the need for different instruments, financial instruments, not only affordable financing, but financial instruments that can back PPAs, ensuring that we have the guarantees required when undertaking major energy projects like geothermal. And I'm hoping that as we talk about that transition, we can also talk about SIDS appropriate technology. And I'm happy I heard it from Barbados earlier, and we need to focus more about SIDS appropriate technology. Wind and solar are excellent, and they have their place and they have their purpose. But we are large ocean states, and it would be, in my mind, an injustice to our people if we refuse to continue to make the case for ocean technology. Whether it's in the form of wave or OTEC, we need to make that argument, and Irina, a good friend of SIDS, having created the SIDS Lighthouse and providing tremendous support to us, needs to take as part of its mandate the development of more SIDS-appropriate technology, being able to back the efforts of global OTEC in developing ocean technology as forms of renewable power. Geothermal energy is sometimes forgotten as well, because we seem to have the appetite to get the low-hanging fruits, that we leave the good fruits at the back. I know, when you come from a village like I'm from, when you go pick the mangoes, sometimes it is the rotten fruits with worms and everything else that are low-hanging, and the good fruits is all the way up. So perhaps we need to stop grabbing onto the low-hanging fruits and focus on those transformational SIDS-appropriate technologies that can really make a change, make a difference, so that when we, in the small islands, we hear a hurricane is coming, we don't have to think that our entire energy source through solar power and wind could disappear. And I'm speaking coming from a country that got hit severely in the last 7 years. So, Mr. Moderator, I want to thank you for that opportunity. And I want to leave us with the message that just an equitable transition to renewable energy in SIDS needs a little more than commitments of financing. We need to dig deeper and ask ourselves, why aren't SIDS, whom have shown more ambition than any other group of countries, why have we not been able to translate commitment into real action? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. With that, could I ask the Honorable Minister Sevi Panue from Tuvalu, Minister of Finance, to deliver his remarks.
Yeah, thank you, President and Chair, Excellencies, colleagues and friends, Talofa, and good afternoon. I, at the outset, wanted to echo and amplify the voice of that little child from Vanuatu that we've heard and that has been shared by Thomas. Two key messages that I would like us all in this room to leave with us, besides the just and equitable transition: building resilience and fossil phase-out. The urgency and the climate emergency of climate change and sea level rise cannot be more pronounced, felt, and visible in my own country, Tuvalu, than anywhere else. The situation in my country, Tuvalu, is dire and catastrophic. As we sit here, my land is being eaten away. The rising seas are submerging my own islands. The taro plantation and the crops for which we depend our livelihoods on are being destroyed because of the infiltration of seawater coming underground. Our water is being compromised, and this is the reality for us in Tuvalu. Tuvalu is barely 2 meters above sea level. There are no high mountains. So when we talk about relocation and internal migration and adaptation, there is nowhere else to go. And that is the reality. And we are encouraged by the Loss and Damage Fund, the pledges that we've heard at the beginning of this conference. The issue for us is accessibility, being able to access those monies so we can implement long-term permanent solutions. And for Tuvalu, our only means to save and protect Tuvalu is to build more land and build upwards. But that requires enormous, significant climate financing. And we call on the international community, not only within COP, there is a call for the review of the international financial architecture to ensure that the modalities are aligned to 1.5 and ensure that the countries that need those finance the most are able to get it now rather than tomorrow. So our plea is to ensure that these funding modalities are actually delivering the benefit readily to our countries and to our communities to protect and save ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, and thank you for that reminder of what we are all facing as SIDS on a daily basis. I want to thank the distinguished speakers for the interventions, and you are now invited to take your seats, and I'll ask for the next set of speakers to come up for their interventions. Thank you. So may I invite the Honorable Flavian Schubert, Minister of Agriculture, Climate Change and Environment of the Seychelles, to join us on the stage. Also, Henry Puna, Secretary General of the Pacific Island Forum. His Excellency Dr. Natalie Burnett, Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, to join us. And Honorable Cranston Buffon, Minister of Agriculture, Lands, Housing, and Environment of Montserrat. If you could join us. Afternoon. Secretary General. Well, as we begin this next set of interventions, I'd like to ask the Honorable Flavian Hubert, Minister of Agriculture, Climate Change and Environment of the Seychelles, to start off with remarks. And you're free to either sit in your seat or use the podium.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. At the outset, let me extend my deepest gratitude and sincere appreciation to IRENA, AOSIS, and in collaboration with the COP28 UAE presidency for convening this important and timely event for small island developing states. I would also like to take this opportunity today to commend IRENA for supporting energy transition in island states, especially under the SEEDS Lighthouse Initiative. Small island developing states, as we know, are on the front line of climate change, facing rising sea levels, coastal erosion, increased frequency of extreme weather events, and the loss of vital ecosystems. Seychelles is no exception. The recent findings from the IPCC panel serves as a stark warning that we must take immediate and decisive action towards sustainability. Islands contribute minimally to global emissions, but they carry a large share of the burden. We are actively engaged in decarbonizing our energy sector and transitioning to e-mobility, but we need urgent support for implementation, including finance, technology, and also capacity building. It is time for the world to recognize the urgency of the situation and take concrete steps towards supporting actions that would help us all make real progress. It is absolutely imperative that we implement a pragmatic strategy that unequivocally charts a course to confine global temperature rise within the critical threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius. As we gather for COP28, it is crucial that we remain focused on moving away from fossil fuels and increase the use of renewable energy. In the last decade, Seychelles has installed a combined solar and wind installation of 22 megawatts. This has enabled us to achieve our renewable energy penetration target of 5% by 2020, and we are now looking at the 15% target by 2030, an ultimate goal of 100% by 2050. After signing our first power purchase agreement for a 5 megawatts floating PV farm, Seychelles is currently exploring a number of sites for floating PV with a total potential of 40 megawatts around the granitic islands of the Seychelles. We are also achieving our commitments to adaptations, such as our 30 by 30 goal and our NDC goals early, and we ask that all partners think likewise. The global stocktake serves as a critical platform for Seychelles and other SEEDS to amplify our call for transformative action. It should be forward-looking and inclusive, aiming to ensure a just transition to sustainable energy sources and systems across the globe by 2050. This can be achieved by promoting the development and adoption of low-emission technologies and reducing barriers to transboundary flows of clean and renewable energy while taking into account the national circumstances of each country. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us take this opportunity at COP28 to take bold steps towards climate resilience and putting us back on track on a 1.5 degree pathway. We know exactly what must be done, but what we need is commitment to action by all countries without exception. We cannot keep postponing action as the most vulnerable of the world continue to suffer. Seychelles commits to uniting with you all as we elevate our ambition and work to achieve the best possible outcome for the people whose lives we are sworn to safeguard and uplift. I thank you all.
Thank you, Minister Hubert, and for that commitment and call to action. His Excellency Henry Puna, Secretary General of the Pacific Islands Forum, may you take the stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Moderator. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and warm Pacific greetings from the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat. 2023 has been a phenomenal year of climate advocacy and resilience for our Pacific region. We secured unanimous support from the United Nations General Assembly for an application to the International Court of Justice seeking an advisory opinion on the obligations of states to climate change. We have opened our very first regionally led and established financing mechanism, the Pacific Resilience Facility. We have issued a world-first declaration on the continuity of statehood and the protection of persons affected by climate change-related sea level rise. And just last week, we saw come to fruition the operationalization of the Loss and Damage Fund here in Dubai. Taken together, these milestones give me hope that the world is taking substantive action to correct the current trajectory of this climate crisis. But this is only the beginning. We need to see continued commitment and action from the whole world if we are to guarantee a future for our children. We aspire in the Pacific for a just and equitable transition to a fossil fuel-free Pacific. But you know, an aspiration is just that, and remains that if we do not see critical action to turn aspiration into reality. But the science is clear. We need to transition away from fossil fuel by 2050, only 27 years away from now. And the only way to achieve that is through rapid acceleration of green energy to remove fossil fuels from our global energy system. I am pleased that the political will and commitment from the Pacific is strong. Pacific leaders have committed to a transition away from coal, oil, and gas in line with the IPCC pathways for limiting global average temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius, with a peak in fossil fuel consumption in the near term. We want to see the Just Transition Work Program that was agreed to in Sharm el-Sheikh last year to set meaningful pathways that are aligned to the 1.5 degree target we set in Paris. And this builds on our leaders' decision in 2022 to achieve carbon neutrality in the Pacific by 2050. Excellency, at the heart of the matter is this: a just and equitable energy transition means the survival of our people, the survival of our traditions, and ensuring that our future generations can experience life in our custodial homelands. But if the Pacific Islands was to drop our emissions to zero tomorrow, the sad fact is that the richest 10% of the world's population would still, on their own, breach the 1.5 degrees Celsius in the next few years. This is the inequality and injustice we face in this current global crisis. It is ironic that fuel subsidies surged to a record $7 trillion last year as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the economic recovery from the pandemic. And yet, we continue to voice and advocate for developed countries to realize your commitment on the $100 billion climate finance goal. This begs the question: how can we redirect these fossil fuel subsidies towards cleaner energy in a just transitional manner? How can we support social systems and infrastructure, like strengthening our education and health systems, in a manner that is just and equitable for all? It is not and will not be an easy undertaking, because it means significant and immediate reforms. But it is critical that we start putting these reforms in place and implementing them. It is only worth undertaking if we all collectively commit to action it together. I leave with this sobering thought and challenge. 80% of the global population should not be bearing the cost of the lifestyles of the 10 to 20% of the global population. I thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General, for those remarks. With that, could I ask the Honorable Dr. Natalie Barnett, Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, to deliver her intervention.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Irina, for convening this session to focus on SIDS, whose voices are not being heard loud enough in the series of events at this critical COP. At the global level, emissions need to be reduced by 43% to ensure that 1.5 degrees centigrade is achievable. This requires that across the globe, we all accelerate plans to attract investments and implement projects to transition to renewable energy. In the Caribbean, as in the Pacific Islands, we know that we do not contribute to the emissions problem. If we were all able to transition to renewable energy somehow magically tomorrow, the net effect on global emissions would be negligible. This is because, as you have heard, we do not contribute in any meaningful way to climate change. We simply carry the burden of the impact. From more and stronger hurricanes to increasingly scarce groundwater, to disappearing coastal lands, to degrading marine ecosystems, to stress on our agriculture and health and other sectors. Our rationale in Caribbean SIDS for focusing on renewable energy transformation is based on the need for greater energy security, stability of supply and prices, and accessibility by more marginalized populations. The CARICOM region is experiencing once again the reality of new large oil discoveries with the attendant possibility of significant economic transformation. But we are fully aware that this transformation must be effectively managed to ensure that growth and development is both inclusive and sustainable. Renewable energy is a critical component of our strategies. In our states, there are many opportunities to develop renewable energy potential, which, combining various sources, stands at an estimated 10,750 megawatts at this time. While energy transformation is inevitable, transition rates will vary in the region. For example, despite Guyana's recent entry into the oil market, the country has targeted renewable energy generation of 59% by 2030. So there is an understanding of the need for adaptation and energy transformation across the Caribbean community. Barbados has installed 85 megawatts of renewable energy grids since 2019, which is between 12 and 15% of the country's electricity demand at this time, and is targeting becoming 100% RE and carbon neutral by 2030. Grenada is also targeting 100% renewable energy generation by 2030. The CARICOM energy agenda, therefore, seeks to address the 4 dimensions of energy security to ensure that energy services are available, reliable, affordable, and sustainable for all our citizens. Caribbean community member states have been making progress in key sectors, such as power generation, transportation, and buildings. Our objective is a just and equitable and accelerated transition that leaves no one behind and that contributes to safeguarding our planet for future generations. So we will continue to call for access to affordable finance and the necessary technology to allow this to take place. But we are fully aware that our transition to renewable energy is a medium-term adaptation to climate change. In the long term, our survival as a Caribbean civilization, our survival for all of us who are SIDS, requires the rest of the world, particularly the major emitters, to make meaningful and early transitions to their energy landscape, incorporating renewables in economic activity in both production and consumption to the extent necessary to have the required effect of reducing emissions that are the source of climate change. Without this, 1.5 degrees centigrade will continue to fade fast, as will our chances of a livable future for our peoples. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Secretary General Burnett. With that, could I ask Honorable Kristen Buffong, Minister of Agriculture, Land, Housing, and Environment of Montserrat, to deliver his remarks.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I want to start by echoing the sentiments of my colleague and neighbor, Dominica, by stating categorically that the issues we are facing as small island developing states are not our causing. And to go down the road of the science of saying why we should is not needed, because at this stage, everyone knows the issues, and what the solutions are. Montserrat, ladies and gentlemen, is located in the Caribbean Sea and is a small island inhabited by tenacious people. Following the volcanic eruption in 1995, where we lost most of the country and most of our inhabitants by migration, we are still there, and our rehabilitation and our development process still continues. One of the main areas of rebuilding is our energy sector, both the production of it and transportation. We have implemented a 1 megawatt solar farm with battery storage and are currently doing the preliminary investigations into wind power with the help of IRENA, and have confirmed the potential for geothermal power with 2 production wells. Let me say thank you to IRENA for the work in this regard, as we are looking forward to the outcome of this. With a population of between 4,000 to 5,000 people, and I'm sure that's by far the smallest here at COP, our electricity demand is relatively small and has proven to be both a blessing and a curse. Our hope to achieve 100% renewable energy penetration is relatively easy to achieve. However, this may prove less attractive to our private financiers. For Montserrat to realize this goal and become one of the first to achieve 100% renewable energy, we require access to funding streams that OTs are usually excluded from, such as, which was stated earlier at COP, access to loss and damage fund, and assistance with an economic appraisal of how to justly transition to renewable energy. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And thank you to all our distinguished speakers for their interventions. And you now may take your seats off the stage. And I extend the invitation to the following distinguished speakers to join me on the stage. Mr. James Elsmore, founder and director of Island Innovation. The Honorable Norris Maynard, Minister of Public Infrastructure, Energy and Utilities, Domestic Transport, Information, Communication and Technology, and Post of St. Kitts and Nevis. The Honorable Thomas Opa, Vice Minister of Petroleum, Energy and Energy of Papua New Guinea. And the Honorable Kenry James, Minister of Climate Resilience, Environment and Renewable Energy of Grenada. Oh, Congress. Yes. Thank you. Okay, with that, can we invite Mr. James Elsmore, founder and director of Pacific Islands Innovation, to deliver his remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really want to extend my gratitude to the IRENA, SIDS Lighthouse Initiative, and AOSIS for the invitation to join you here for this address. We are delighted as Island Innovation to be a member of this prestigious network to support the work that is happening for the renewable energy transition in small island states. I wanted to give a short insight on the importance of civil society and youth in supporting the transition for small island states. Government plays a vital role in the transition, but it cannot be done by government alone. The role of civil society in supporting that movement is absolutely critical. Now, our approach at Island Innovation is to share information and good practices from islands around the world, including subnational regions in addition to small island states, knowing that although every island has a very unique context, they share many common challenges. But for this to work, we also need government, the private sector, civil society, and academia to be aligned in supporting one another. We like to call this the quadruple helix. And it's really surprising how often we see that these four sectors are out of step or working without consulting one another. And so I appreciate the opportunity to share some insight into how these different sectors use different languages, for want of a better word, in the way that they approach the energy transition. Now, we are very proud, and I see some of them in the audience, we're very proud to be here this year supporting a youth delegation of 10 climate justice advocates from the Caribbean, the Caribbean Climate Justice Leadership Academy, representing projects on a range of issues from gender and indigenous rights. And these are exactly the voices that we need to be including when we're talking about the energy transition for small island states. Climate justice must also be in step with a just transition when it comes to energy. And we know that the value that renewables have for small island states is absolutely essential to becoming self-sufficient and resilient nations. But for a truly just transition away from fossil fuels, we must be consulting with civil society, and we must be consulting with the young people that will carry the torch for the next generation in the island states. And so I wanted to also congratulate the young people that I mentioned from this group of 10 people from the Academy for having their voices heard, to show the variety of voices involved with the just transition, the impact that that has that goes far beyond government to address the whole quadruple helix. Thank you again for having me join you to address this session.
Thank you, Mr. Elsmore, and thank you for sponsoring the youth participation and getting them involved. With that, could I ask the Honorable Minister, Vice Minister Opa of Papua New Guinea to give his remarks.
Thank you, Moderator. Excellencies, distinguished guests, for Papua New Guinea, as the biggest island state in the Pacific, with over 10 million people, we fully support IRENA and the SEEDS initiative. We've been part of IRENA for some time now. We are also mindful of our rainforest, our resources. So we also have oil and gas that we've been trying to monetize as well. So for Papua New Guinea, we wish to endeavor to make sure that the aspirations of our Prime Minister, Honorable James Marape, is to support the global agenda on climate change. And just this week, he signed an agreement with President Macron to see France support our country with over 400 million kina in forest conservation. So those are signs that Papua New Guinea, as the biggest country in the Pacific, we fully support the endeavors by our Pacific Island Forum and all our other countries, island states, that climate change is real. And as a bigger country in the Pacific, we are very mindful that some of our island states, including small islands within Papua New Guinea, will be gone very soon. So we are here to support IRENA and the initiatives to contribute to a better world for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Opa, and thank you for your leadership in the Pacific. With that, could I ask Minister, the Honorable Congress Maynard, Minister of Public Infrastructure, Energy, Utilities, Domestic Transport, Information, Communication, and Technology, and Post of St. Kitts and Nevis, to give his remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your Excellencies, St. Kitts and Nevis is the smallest independent nation in the Western Hemisphere, with only 68 square miles for St. Kitts and 36 for Nevis, with 52,000 people. Our present landscape is that we have in excess of 95% fossil fuel powered generation. The government is subsidizing the increased cost of fuel driven by conflicts which we are not a part of. As a direct result of changing climate, our rainfall has decreased by 20% over the last 10 years and by 40% over the last year alone. Given that we relied on rainfall for 100% of our water resources, we are now unable to provide 24-hour water services to our residents. We have to turn to desalination, which requires affordable energy, which we do not yet have. Our farmers who previously relied on this rainfall are now requesting to be on our water network where we cannot afford to supply them. Finally, large amounts of social programs that the government uses to support the most at risk in the absence of sustainable employment. Without affordable energy, it is difficult and near impossible to attract manufacturing and other energy-intensive industries to put our people to work. Therefore, we have realized that there is a nexus needed for our sustainable island state objectives to be met. We solve energy, we solve water. We solve water, we solve food. We solve energy, we solve industries. We solve industries, we solve salaries. The people and government of St. Kitts and Nevis have not sat by waiting for manna to fall from the sky, however. We are determined to exploit the renewable energy sources that we have to achieve energy independence. Although we only need 40 megawatts of power to satisfy current and short-term short-term power needs of our federation, we have tremendous renewable power potential far exceeding our local needs. Our geothermal reserves are estimated to be in excess of 1 gigawatt. Our wind potential is upward of 800 megawatts, and many more hundreds of megawatts for solar. That's over 2 gigs for a country that only needs 40 megawatts. Therefore, our federal parliament passed unanimously a national resolution declaring that our geothermal resource is a national asset and a national resource that must be pursued as a national priority. We have put our skin in the game by agreeing to accept a $16 million financing facility from the Caribbean Development Bank to proceed with the drilling of geothermal production wells to produce a minimum of 30 megawatts of power. This financial tool, however, presents a gap of US $20 million for it to be viable to move the best drillers in the world to the smallest independent nation in the Western Hemisphere. We are also on the verge of cementing another financing tool for this US $20 million gap. This means that the SKN government has now committed $36 million to this effort. We have also just signed an agreement for the supply of 30% of energy sources on the island of St. Kitts from the largest solar and battery energy storage power plant to be in the region. So the just and equitable transition then means that since we have not been the ones to cause this problem, yet our beaches are disappearing, seawater rise is leading to increased saltwater intrusion to our island freshwater aquifers, we are facing a countrywide destruction from a single Category 5 hurricane, which is sure to come. Then after we are placing our skin in the game by investing the very little money that we have, concessionary funding collaboration is required, is a must in order for us to adapt to this new reality. I would like to thank IRENA for the work that they're doing and this opportunity for us to present and trust that the voice of SIDS such as ours is heard loud and clear, that we are not looking for sympathy, but partnership to survive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Maynard, for that, and it's partnership. Yeah, not a handout. Thank you. With that, could I ask, invite Minister Karen James from Grenada to give her remarks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow colleague ministers, I bring you warm greetings from the Spice Island of the Caribbean, Grenada. As the Minister for Climate Resilience, Environment and Renewable Energy, it is my honor to address this distinguished gathering. Today, we stand at a pivotal juncture in history where the decisions we make will shape the future of our planet and the legacy we leave for generations to come. Our focus on energy and industry and the just energy transition, especially within the context of small island developing states, could not be more critical. In Grenada, as in many SIDS, we are acutely aware of the urgent need for a transition to renewable energy. In a matter of weeks, we will be commissioning an 800 kilowatt solar PV plant in the sister island of Carriacou. It is our hopes to scale up this project and stay on our target to 100% renewable energy penetration by 2030. Our survival and prosperity hinge on our ability to adapt, innovate, and transition to a more sustainable way of life. As island nations, we are the sentinels of the ocean, guardians of a vast ecosystem that sustains life on Earth, but yet we are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change, rising sea levels, extreme weather patterns, and the erosion of biodiversity. Our very existence is a testament to resilience in the face of these challenges, but resilience alone is not enough. We need a just and equitable energy transition, one that recognizes the unique challenges and strengths of SIDS. A transition that does not leave anyone behind, particularly so for our youth and our women. This transition is not just an environmental imperative, but an economic one. At the recently held World Climate Action Summit, the UN Secretary General stated, and I quote, "Renewable energy is the gift that keeps on giving." By harnessing the power of renewable energy, we can unlock new avenues of sustainable development, create green jobs, and foster a circular economy that works in harmony with nature. However, the path to this future is not without its challenges. We require tailored support in financing, technology transfer, and capacity building. The operationalization of the Loss and Damage Fund and the tremendous and significant pledges, notably so by the UAE, among others, we have received thus far, even before COP28 is nearing to end, is indeed a step in the right direction, offering hope for nations most affected by climate-related disasters. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I want to call upon each of us as leaders, as innovators, and champions of change to join us in this endeavor. Together, we can forge a future where our islands are not just surviving, but thriving. A future where our children, our youth, and our mature populations can inherit a world that is healthier, more equitable, and more resilient. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And I realize that we're running a little bit of overtime right now, but there's 4 more interventions that we have to hear from. And I want to extend my gratitude to the speakers on stage, and you may now take your seats off stage while I invite the next 4 interventions. Thank you. Thank you. The Honorable Dr. Tint Itanang, Minister of Health, Medical Services of Kiribati, and I'm sure I butchered that name. Her Excellency Diane Black Lane, Ambassador of Climate Change, Director of Environment of Antigua and Barbuda, Mr. Minoru Takeda, Secretary for UN Energy and Deputy Director of UN Forum on Forest. How do I say that? Minister? TISS. Kiribati. With that, may I invite Minister Sente from Kiribati to give his remarks.
Honorable Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I stand here before you with great honor as a representative of the resilient people of the Republic of Kiribati. Kamneben Melody and warm greetings that echo the spirit of our nation and our people. Firstly, let me extend my heartfelt gratitude to the people and the government of the United Arab Emirates for hosting this crucial small island developing states meeting. I also appreciate the collaboration between IRENA, AOSIS, and COP28 for orchestrating this event, underscoring the importance of unity at addressing the global climate crisis. Kiribati, a least developed country and a low-lying Pacific island atoll nation, faces the immediate impacts of climate change: sea level rise, prolonged droughts, extreme weather events. These are not just scientific data points for us. They are the harsh realities that threaten our economies, threaten our environment, our society, and our unique cultural heritage. Yet despite our vulnerability, I am proud to share with you the proactive steps taken by the government of Kiribati. In alignment with the Paris Agreement, our commitment to the energy transition is reflected in policies and plans such as the Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management Act, the 2022 Energy Act, and the Kiribati Integrated Energy Roadmap. Kiribati has set ambitious targets to reduce fossil fuel use through renewable energy and energy efficient initiatives, achieving 30% of our urban island targets and over 50% for the rural islands since 2017. We are focused on introducing innovative, decarbonizing, people-centered technologies such as cutting-edge solar air-water generators that leverage the abundant sun and humid air that we enjoy in our tropical environment. The first of these is being installed at our major hospital, with opportunities to expand at the community level. These accomplishments are a testament to our dedication, but achieving 100% by 2025 requires continued support and collaboration. I emphasize the need for increased efforts to consider the special needs and circumstances of small island developing states and low-lying coral atoll nations. A just transition must be fair. It must be inclusive and equitable. Mitigation and adaptation actions must be supported by just financing, means of implementation, capacity development, and technology transfer. A gender-balanced approach must be mainstreamed to ensure that no one is left behind. In conclusion, the challenges we face demand collective action, strong partnerships, and genuine commitment. Let us all move forward with ambition and with dedication, knowing that the problems of today require global solutions. I extend my heartfelt thanks to you, Mr. Chair, the organizers, and all esteemed colleagues present today, and I share with you the rich blessings of my people, the Maori, the Roi, or the Tabamoa. Peace, health, and prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, and thank you for those important words. With that, could I, ladies and gentlemen, most of you may be aware that Antigua and Barbuda will host the upcoming 4th International Conference on SIDS in May of 2024. And I now have the pleasure of inviting Her Excellency, Ambassador Deanne Black-Lane of Antigua and Barbuda to give her intervention. Thank you.
Thank you. Good, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm here representing my minister, so Norman Joseph, Minister of Health, Wellness, Social Transformation, and the Environment. And I am here to bring you an excitement that we are feeling at home, trying to get ready to welcome all of you to our small Caribbean nation. Antigua and Barbuda, in the last 2 years, 2021 and 2022, has been the chair of AOSIS. Antigua and Barbuda assisted represented small and developing states on the Transitional Committee for the Green Climate Fund. We also served on the Transitional Committee for the Loss and Damage Fund. We are the board member for SIDS on the Green Climate Fund as well as the Adaptation Fund. And we are also looking forward to hosting you here in Antigua and Barbuda. Like Antigua and Barbuda, why we want to participate so much, and we feel that we can offer a lot of insights and do a lot on behalf of AOSIS, is because Antigua and Barbuda is in Hurricane Alley, and we also suffer with drought. We were hit by the first Category 5 hurricane. So all of our negotiators, including myself, my minister, our Prime Minister, the Dominican Prime Minister who was here, we know what we're talking about. We were there when the Category 5 winds hit our homes, our communities. And so there's a passion and there is an urgency that we would like to see that everybody that can adopt. So Antigua and Barbuda, just like every other small and developing states, we suffer with getting access to capital for renewable energy. No one would ever believe that it'd be so hard to find financing for energy. Everybody needs it. It's almost a sure thing, a sure investment. But there are a lot of geopolitical issues that it's easier for you to get money to build a diesel engine plant than to build a solar or wind power plant. Today, it is still easier to get to do that. And that is something that we want to change with Article 2.1c of the Convention. We need to be able to access the capital that we need for them equally, but it's not equal at this time. So the strategy for Antigua and Barbuda, and we hope to show it to you when we get there, is that we want to harness the power of our people, our savings, and the power of our own local financial institution. The solar panel system that exists on my home was expensive because it's twice as much. I paid twice as much for it as somebody who lived in the United States, and I don't make the kind of salary that they make. But I purchased it anyway, and there's a lot of savings that you can have. And I use the financing in my own local bank, my own community bank, and install it into my own home. When the hurricane hit, the next day I had power that I can use, that I, as the director of the Department of Environment, as a first responder, I could go back out and help other people because my own home had power. I think that is the business model that we need to turn to. Right now, we're looking at a business model that still have energy tied to our grid. For many small and developing states, distributive energy is the energy that will help us to transition in a just way. It will help us to transition to give the power of energy into the hands of each family, while borrowing from your own local financial institution. The Green Climate Fund, the Adaptation Fund, and hopefully the Loss and Damage Fund will soon be able to provide you some financing so you can blend it to make the cost a lot cheaper for your people than it was for me and my family. So we have a lot to say to you, not only represent AOSIS, not only hosting you in Antigua and Barbuda, but we have a lot of opportunities that we can share our experiences with getting access to these international funds. So thank you very much for this opportunity to speak on behalf of my beautiful island, and we're looking forward to seeing you next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, for sharing the vision and calls from SIDS. The outcomes of COP28 will certainly have a crucial impact on the 4th International Conference on SIDS and influencing how SIDS should strategically navigate their energy transition and advance sustainable development for the next 10 years. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our structured interventions, and it was my pleasure to preside over this session and reiterate the calls from SIDS for more access to financing, technical assistance, technology transfer, capacity building, and other forms of tailor-made support that will maximize the economic and social opportunities and benefits from SIDS energy transition. At this time, At this time, to formally close the events, I now invite Mr. Minoru Takeda to the podium to deliver the closing remarks. Mr. Takeda is the Secretary for UN Energy and Deputy Director of UN Forum on Forest Secretariat, and which is serving as the Secretariat for the Fourth International Conference of SIDS. Thank you, Mr. Takeda. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, the distinguished delegates, the colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I am standing here on behalf of the Undersecretary General Lee Jun-hwa of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, who is serving as the Conference Secretary General for the fourth SIDS conference to come in Antigua Barbuda, just Ambassador introduced, next year in May. Listening to everybody's leadership, wow, we can see that 20th century, of course, we are powered by fossil fuels. 21st century is going to be powered by renewable energy, and your leadership is actually giving us a lot of energy to make sure that this is going to happen. And for us at the United Nations, our role is very clear. Building on your leadership, we help you turn that leadership into concrete action and results through partnerships, through investment, and through actions. That's why we are supporting this fourth conference to come in Antigua Barbuda. Hope that you will be everybody able to come together to be able to support this sort of significant change that is going to be needed to address climate change, but also sustainable development challenges we will have to deliver by 2030. So with this is a short introduction about the SIDS conference, and also then thank you to everybody for your leadership and call to action by everybody to come together to work on the SIDS conference, make sure SIDS conference deliver for the prosperity of the people in SIDS, and SIDS to be the global leader in the energy transformation. That is going to be powered by renewable energy over the decades to come. So thank you very much, and with this one, I will finish my concluding remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
President.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.